In the Roman Empire, male concubines were a common feature of the society. Many were enslaved or sold into the profession, and their lives were filled with pain and suffering. Hello viewers, and welcome to our video on the tragic life of a male concubine in the Roman Empire. In this video, we will explore the lives of male concubines who were bought and sold like commodities, and whose tragic stories have been largely forgotten by history. However, before we start our countdown, we would appreciate it if you would subscribe to our YouTube channel and also press the bell icon. So let's dive into the video. The Roman Empire was one of the most powerful empires in human history. It was also a society that thrived on slavery and sex work. Male concubines were a common feature of the Roman Empire, and they were often bought and sold like commodities. Many male concubines were enslaved or sold into the profession, and their lives were filled with pain and suffering. The life of a male concubine in the Roman Empire was far from glamorous. They were often treated as objects, forced to perform sexual acts for their owners or clients. Many were subjected to physical and emotional abuse, and their owners had complete control over their lives. Sold into servitude. The tragic fate of male concubines in the Roman Empire. The Roman Empire was a society based on social hierarchy. At the top of the hierarchy were the elite and wealthy class, who had the power and resources to maintain their status. Slavery was a fundamental institution that provided labor for these classes. However, slaves were not just used for manual labor, but also for sexual purposes. Male concubines were slaves who were selected for their physical attributes and sold into sexual servitude. These men were often young and exotic-looking, and they were used by the wealthy and elite for their sexual pleasure. The life of a male concubine was often tragic and short. They were subjected to physical and sexual abuse, and many died prematurely due to disease and malnutrition. The conditions they endured were often degrading and inhumane. They were confined to small rooms or cages, and their lives were controlled by their owners. Male concubines were also subject to the whims of their owners, who could sell or dispose of them at any time. The impact of male concubinage on Roman society was significant. It was a reflection of the sexual and social norms of the time. Male concubines were seen as objects of desire, and their availability was seen as a sign of wealth and power. However, the practice of concubinage also had negative consequences. It contributed to the objectification and dehumanization of individuals, and it perpetuated the power imbalance between the elite and the enslaved. Life in chains. The brutal reality of male concubinage in ancient Rome. Ancient Rome was a civilization that valued power, wealth, and pleasure. The practice of male concubinage was an integral part of Roman society, where young boys were bought or captured and forced into sexual slavery for the pleasure of their owners. This practice was not only accepted but also encouraged by the wealthy and powerful members of society. The life of a male concubine was harsh and brutal. They were often taken from their families at a young age and subjected to physical and sexual abuse. They were forced to perform sexual acts on their owners and their guests, often in front of an audience. They were also used as laborers and were expected to perform various household duties. Despite the cruel nature of this practice, male concubinage was legal and regulated by Roman law. The owners had complete control over their concubines, and they could sell or trade them at any time. The concubines had no legal rights and were treated as property. The impact of male concubinage on Roman society was significant. It reinforced the idea of male dominance and female submissiveness. It also created a hierarchy of power, where the wealthy and powerful had control over the lives of others. Male concubinage was seen as a symbol of wealth and status, and owning a concubine was considered a sign of masculinity. From beloved to betrayed. The heartbreaking story of male concubines in Rome. Male concubinage in ancient Rome was not limited to sexual relationships. These men were often valued for their intelligence, wit, and charm, and were prized companions of the elite. In many cases, male concubines were educated and well-read, making them ideal confidants and advisors to their masters. However, the lives of male concubines were far from easy. They were subject to the whims and fancies of their masters, who could cast them aside at any moment. Many male concubines lived in fear of being replaced by a younger or more attractive model. Betrayal was also a constant threat. Male concubines were often pitted against each other in competition for the affections of their masters. Some even resorted to underhanded tactics to gain an advantage, such as spreading rumors or sabotaging their rivals. Heartbreak was a common experience for male concubines, who often found themselves deeply in love with their masters. However, their love was rarely returned, and many were forced to watch as their masters took on new lovers. The lives of male concubines were not limited to their relationships with their masters. They also had to navigate the complex social dynamics of ancient Roman society. Male concubines were often viewed with suspicion and scorn by other members of society, who saw them as immoral and debauched. Slaves to desire. The plight of male concubines in the Roman elite. Male concubines were a common fixture in ancient Rome, serving as objects of desire for the wealthy and powerful. These men were often slaves who were purchased specifically for their beauty and sexual appeal. They were expected to satisfy their master's every whim, regardless of their own desires or feelings. While some male concubines were able to rise to positions of power and influence, most lived in fear and servitude. They were subject to physical and sexual abuse, and their lives were often cut short by disease, violence, or neglect. Despite these hardships, male concubines were an essential part of Roman society, serving as symbols of wealth and status for their owners. Breaking the silence. Uncovering the untold stories of male concubines in ancient Rome. The history of male concubines in ancient Rome is a topic that has been hidden and silenced for centuries. These men were often used for sexual pleasure by their owners, but they also held important roles in Roman society. They were valued for their beauty, intelligence, and skills, and many of them became trusted advisors and confidants of their owners. Despite their importance, male concubines have been overlooked in historical narratives. It is only through historical accounts and archaeological evidence that we can begin to understand their lives and experiences. Male concubines in ancient Rome lived in a society that was deeply patriarchal and hierarchical. They were often taken from lower social classes and forced into their roles, but some also chose to become concubines for the opportunities and privileges it afforded them. Their daily routines varied depending on the preferences of their owners, but many were tasked with managing household affairs and educating their owners' children. They also engaged in cultural and social activities, such as attending parties and festivals. But despite their positions of privilege, male concubines faced many challenges, including exploitation and abuse. They were often treated as objects to be used for pleasure and discarded when they were no longer useful. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the world of male concubines in the Roman Empire. Although their lives were often tragic, male concubines played a significant role in the social and political landscape of ancient Rome. By shedding light on this lesser-known aspect of Roman history, we gain a greater understanding of the complexities of ancient Roman society. Be sure to subscribe to our channel for more fascinating insights into the ancient world.